People ask me every day of my life if I play basketball. Probably because I'm so tall. And I always give them the same answer. I say, you know what? If I could sink a basket, I'd be driving a much nicer car. And it probably wouldn't be dirty. I'm actually the biggest hypocrite I know. Here's what I mean. I manage the biggest guitar store in the world. I don't play guitar. My wife is a manager for Starbucks Coffee Company. I've never even had a cup of coffee. And probably the biggest oxymoron I'm guilty of is how I got here. See, I never thought I could be a speaker. And when I started my career with Guitar Center, my mentor was Ron Bicknell. And Ron was a fantastic speaker. His sales meetings would be the highlight of my whole week. Well, Ron calls me in the office one day, sits me down and says, Jason, you're going to be a leader in our company someday. And I said, you got the wrong guy. I could never be a leader. Not like you. And Ron says, so why not? Now watch this. Because I could never speak to an audience the way you do. Yeah. I was 19 when we had that talk. By the time I was 22, I had my own store. And I was speaking twice a day. I never would have made it as far as I did with Guitar Center without speaking. And I've been there the last 12 years. And back in 2007, I was actually chosen to speak at our national convention. So I did what most people would do. I cried in terror. I called my speech coach and he asked me an interesting question. He said, what do you want to get from this speech? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, Jason, why do you want to give this speech? And I said, that's easy. Every top manager of Guitar Center is going to be there. I want to show them that I'm ready for a big opportunity. And he said, great. Well, let's write a speech that says that. And we went to work. Well, a few weeks later, I got to give my big speech and received a huge round of applause. Not only that, when I walked off stage, the executive vice president of Guitar Center threw his arm around me and said, wait, you just knocked it out of the park. It gets better. 4 days later, I get a call from my boss, and you won't believe what he says. How would you like to manage the biggest music store in the world? Not an easy offer to walk away from. Well, a week later, I became the general manager of the legendary Hollywood Guitar Center. Now, some people would say that I got that gig because of the speech. And that's mostly true. But I believe I got that gig because of a lesson that I learned more than a decade before I ever gave that speech. Here's what happened. if you'd have known me back in my high school days, you probably would have seen me playing drums. I was captain of the drum line, and probably I was the best snare drummer in my whole city. I was very confident about my playing. I was so confident, I auditioned for one of the top drum corps in the United States. So I'm at my audition. I marched in the auditorium. I stood right in the center of the stage, and I stared those judges dead in the face. Now, the head judge is Tom Float, and Tom is probably the finest snare drummer in the world. Well, I stood to attention. I marked time with my feet, took a deep breath, whipped out my sticks, and played like my life depended on it. I was good. Well, Tom walks up to me and says, "You know, kid, you're pretty good. How much do you practice?" Now, proudly, I say, "An hour a day." He said, "Oh, better make it 4 hours. And maybe we'll use you next year. Have a nice day." Now, I'm thinking what you're thinking, right? Ow! But I look back on it, and I realize that for me, that was the day when I learned what that next level looks like. And I learned that even though I was good, I wasn't great. I learned that what I needed to be great was world-class instruction. And apparently, a lot of practice. And if you want to get really good at whatever you do, speaking, playing, managing, leading, parenting, selling, anything, find some world-class instruction. And I wish for you what the professional football player Jerry Rice said years ago. He had this great line. He said, "Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can achieve what others can't." Thank you very much.